I just started a new LLC out of Puerto Rico called Swan Technologies, so it's a little pun. It's funny, but I think for me, one of my favorite things to talk about is whatever I'm passionate about, right? Like I think we've heard from a lot of different speakers. There's been, everybody's a doctor here. I don't even think I told Dr. Fab, like I actually in '96, I completed my PhD, public high school diploma. And after that, went to school. I played tennis in college, thought I was going to be a professional tennis player. I probably spent more money traveling to tournaments than I made winning. I didn't win enough. And so I moved back home with my parents. My dad was a railroader. My mom was a substitute teacher. And I started into business. And I was blessed to find some mentors that just kind of took me under their wing. And from that day forward, I've just kind of progressed. And I built several businesses, over 50 different companies. In the last 4 years, I've had 3 separate companies that have generated over $1 billion in revenue. Thanks. So the largest is an accounting firm. I'm not an accountant, but June 30th, a friend told me about something called the Employee Retention Tax Credit Program. And I had a restaurant delivery service, kind of like Uber Eats or DoorDash. We were an Inc. 500 company back in 2020. And we ended up merging with Cantor Fitzgerald's Delivery.com. So we're still the largest franchisee in the world for Delivery.com. And I just had a bunch of restaurants that were clients. And I have a credit card processing company that does about $4 to $5 billion a year in transactions. So we had a lot of clients there. And so we knew these businesses could benefit from this tax credit. And so I heard about it June 30th. I called my CPA. He and I went to kindergarten together. So you want to trust your accountant. So I figured I'd get a buddy from a long time ago. And I said, hey, Justin, I said, are you dealing with this employee retention credit? And he said, we are. And I said, well, we ought to start a company together. And he said, okay, let's do it. So the next day I called my buddy that does websites and stuff. I put $3,500 into the company. And then within 2 years, we had thousands of employees, contractors, $10 billion in tax credits filed, $2 billion in profit. Wow. It was kind of nuts. So we didn't need a family office to fund us. So I've actually, I've kind of bootstrapped everything I've started. But for me, I think every one of us has different gifts, fair enough. And I've looked to always partner with people that can hit some of my weak areas and maybe areas where I've got some strengths where they need some help in those areas. And I've always been able to pivot. I really stay focused on revenue generation. To build a big business, I think most people, if you've built a business that's doing hundreds of thousands or millions, and you see that number of $1 billion, and I think even I was in this position where it was like daunting. Like, how do you get to that level? And what I try to explain to people is almost like the amount of effort or knowledge or focus it takes to go from millions of dollars in revenue to billions is so minute, people don't even believe it. It was a simple shift in focus for me. And that focus went from, I think what I would say, sorry, I'll put the mic closer. What I would say the shift is complete focus on value addition. How do you add value? And when I come to speak at events like this, which I don't want to take too long, I want to add as much value as possible. And I think Dr. Kelly talked about it, Dr. Kim talked about it, Dr. Fab, like everybody that's been up here, you can tell that they truly believe in what they're doing. They truly believe in what they're sharing. And I had a friend of mine that when I started the accounting firm, I called him. From July 1 when I started the company until about late August, I just went through my phone. I started in the letter A's, and I just started calling what I call my influencers, my captains, the most successful, influential people I know. And my phone's loaded with them. Like there's thousands of them in my phone. It's kind of nuts. But I got midway through the letter E, and our company had grown so fast, I had to stop doing that. I couldn't continue to sell, and I just went into the operations side. But one of the guys I called, he was going through some tough times. His mother was dealing with an illness, and he never got back to me, which is okay. And I connected with him again about 2 years later, and he realized kind of what had happened. A few of the people that had gotten back with me In 24 months, their commissions, we had, gosh, over 5 people, their commissions were somewhere between $50 million and $100 million in take home. And so he said something to me. I don't usually say this, but because it kind of sounds weird, but he goes, I realize something when you call people. If you believe in what you're doing and you share it with them, he goes, you're offering 2 things, opportunity or regret. And he goes, I really am upset that I didn't call you back. And he's one of actually the first gentlemen I talked to when I started to shift into blockchain. And I'm not going to explain what blockchain is if you're kind of new to the space. I'm going to tell you a quick story of why I made the shift that I did. And it was a friend of mine named Tomas. He was in Bitcoin pretty early, did really well. In 2018, he called me, and I'd invested in Bitcoin, gosh, back in 2013. I've been pretty, $250 a coin. I've never sold it. I actually have been buying ever since. My last big purchase was at 69,000. We're up, I think, 92,000 or something hit today. So, and I'm not selling anytime soon. And I think it's going to go over $1 million per coin. I might be wrong, but when it hits there, I'll start selling some of it. And he's just a kind of a leader in blockchain, and he said, hey, you got to buy these nodes in this company called Gala Games. And I was not a blockchainer. My first question was, what's a node? I was like, what is that? And he was like, what like a Bitcoin miner is called a Bitcoin mining node. He goes, this Gala project is selling nodes. It's software. It costs about what it costs to run a light bulb, so it's way more energy effective than like Bitcoin mining. But he goes, you buy this node, you can put it on your computer, or you can host it in the cloud, and they pay you. Like, thanks for hosting our network on your computer. And I remember I said, well, how much do they pay? And he goes, well, they give you these Gala tokens. And this is 2018. I said, well, how much is a Gala token worth? And he said, well, right now, nothing. And I said, that sounds amazing. I said, you're going to borrow my computer, and you're going to give me magic internet money that's not worth anything. I said, it sounds amazing for that company, but not so much for me. And he said, well, Tony, he goes, it's not worth anything now, but if people start playing these games, it could be worth quite a bit. And so I said, okay. I bought $10,000 worth of nodes. I was like, just give me 10 grand worth. And nothing happened. For about 2 years, nothing happened. Everybody started complaining. He started complaining. And he didn't want people to think he was taking advantage of them, so he refunded everybody. He just kicked everybody's money right back to us. And I actually messaged him. I said, hey, I don't need the refund. Just let it ride. And he said, Tony, it's just easier to transfer the refund all at once for everybody. Just call me in a few weeks, and we'll just redo the transaction. Has anyone ever been busy before? So I, at that time, we had sold a third of where we were actually at the same time selling a third of the delivery business to a company called Eat Street, and we were merging the other 2/3 with Delivery.com, and I'm focused to get those deals through the finish line. They were 8-figure exits, and I just didn't want it to fall through, and I never called him back. And then about a year later, I saw him post on Facebook, and he was like, hashtag Gala Games, hashtag crypto. And so it hit me like, I forgot to call him back, And so I called him. And I was like, Tomas, what's up with the Gala Games deal? And he goes, bro, there's millions of people playing these games. And I was like, really? And he goes, yeah. He goes, my nodes just print tokens every day for the last several years. And he goes, I started selling these coins over the last 45 days. And I said, how much have you sold? And he goes, a little over $50 million worth. And I was like, no way. And he showed me. He's like, here's my Binance account. He showed me his Chase account. He moved it into cash. And I went and I said, well, my buddy Wright, who he'd introduced me to, had started that kind of idea. I said, how much has Wright made? And he said, $4.3 billion. Oh my God. And then I did what you should never do. You ever been at the right place at the right time but didn't realize it? I mean, or didn't take action on it or whatever. I asked him, if I would have called you back, how much would I have right now in tokens? And he goes, so he started doing the math because he had a certain amount of nodes. And he goes, you would have had 20 nodes from 2018 generating tokens. He goes, if you sold today, it would be a little over $10 million. And so I started going back to my exit and going, what was I that busy doing that I couldn't make a 15-minute phone call and just complete a transaction? And so I just chalked it up as, hey, right place, right time, missed it. And it wasn't the first time. It certainly won't be the last time that happens to me. And about a year ago in October, a little over a year ago, he called me. And he said, hey, that group that created the Gala project, they have some projects, several projects they want you to take a look at. And because I had missed, I was like, where do I need to be? You know, like, I'm there, where do I need to go? And it was Las Vegas. And I was really busy with my accounting firm. We've done a lot. We've gone through a lot of growth. And I just said, hey, let me take a look at it. And they started talking about these blockchain projects, but the people that were involved, like they had a banking blockchain. And I was sitting next to a friend of mine who owns like 19 pharmacies and a couple pharmaceutical manufacturing companies. His name's Matt. And this lady walks in the room and I know her. She doesn't know me, but I knew who she was. And I just leaned over to Matt and I said, whatever this lady's doing, we need to do it. And he was like, who is that? And I said, her name's Kathy Roberts. She's one of the original founders of Discover Card. And she was the first president of Discover Bank. Probably one of the more influential bankers of our lifetime, for sure. People don't know that story, but she was an executive at Sears. And Sears went to MasterCard and Visa and said, hey, we want to give 1% cash back for people that use the Visa or MasterCard, the Sears card, you know. And they basically told her to take a hike. And so her and a few other execs created Discover, and now everybody has to do cash back. And we can thank Kathy Roberts why you get points, why you get cash back. She shifted the banking industry. And so when I saw her there, I was surprised because I went up to her afterwards and I just said, how did they get you here? Because she came out of retirement and she was like, Tony, she goes, I believe blockchain has the ability, the technology to make everybody on planet Earth bankable. And she goes, we always think of, you know, villages in Africa where people can't open bank accounts and things like that. But she goes, there's people right here in Las Vegas that can't open a bank account. People in Kansas where you're from, people in Puerto Rico where you live, they can't have access to the financial institutions and systems. And so she started educating me about blockchain, and I started digging in. So that day, I bought $3 million worth of nodes. And I was not going to do anything else. And over time, I started to educate myself more. And have you guys ever heard of Web 3.0?
Yes.
Okay. As I started to understand the inevitability of Web 3.0, I started really studying blockchain. And by mid-December, I started to offload all of the time I was spending with my other companies. And my wife was not pleased, really, because she's the president of our accounting firm, and I was the CEO. I'm still the COO, but I was like, hey, I've got to focus on blockchain, you know. It's all on you, you know. And she's a tank. Like, she's awesome. And so, but it definitely put a heavy workload on her. But she understood the vision that I saw. And so she said, hey, I see where Web3 is going. You need to do this. You need to focus on this. And I'll kind of wrap up with this. I think people in Web 2, as a society, humans have kind of surrendered to the fact that Mark Zuckerberg has listened to us all day today. Yes. And Jeff Bezos and Zoom. Who here's ever done a video conferencing meeting? Like Zoom, Google Meet. So a lot of us have done Zoom. Zoom tells you they're going to take your data. Like your data is their data, your name, your likeness, the video. We can share it. They can share it with their AI. They're connected to China pretty heavily. They're probably selling a lot of our data to the Chinese, which it is what it is. And what's your alternative? You can go to Google Meet. You can go to Microsoft Teams. Like if you think Zoom is good at stealing your data, Microsoft and Google are champions at it. And so what we started to do is we worked with this community to develop Web3 opportunities. So instead of listening to Mark Zuckerberg spying on us, we have options where we created a video conferencing platform. That's one of the fastest growing projects in our ecosystem, where you can actually participate and own all your own data. Yeah. And you can actually get rewarded just for using the service. You get cryptocurrency rewards, then you can pay for the service every month. And if you share it with others, you get more cryptocurrency rewards. And so we're looking to bring people like my mom into the blockchain space. She was doing Zooms with her best friend, her best friend's sister, every single week. And I just said, hey, instead of them stealing your data and you getting nothing, why don't you utilize blockchain where you own your data and you get rewards? And so the opportunity, or I guess as my buddy would say, the regret, I want to share with you today. And really, it's for me, it's just planting the seed. I would tell you, one of my partners is here, Karen Acock. So Karen, you can raise your hand. She's actually, I met her through Dr. Fab, and I think he stalked her for like 2 years to try and finally get it. I know they were together for a long time. He was working on a long time, but she's amazing. She's a partner with me in this venture, and I mean, she's built massive sales organizations, hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue. I'm going to give you guys her phone number. If you're interested in learning more about blockchain, about Web 3.0, she's, again, I find partners that are smarter than me, better than me in different areas. And as far as team building, training, teaching, there's nobody better.
What's
And
Karen's last name?
Aycock, A-Y-C-O-C-K. And so I'm going to pull up her number. It's area code 972 816 3288. I'll give it one more time. Area code's 9. Yeah, this is Karen's phone number. This is my partner. Like I said, she's definitely understands a lot more than me about how to set people up in this space. 972's area code, 816 3288.
Can we ask for email?
Karen, what's your best email?
Karen Acock 5 at gmail.com.
Karen Acock, A-Y-C-O-C-K, 5. So Karen Acock, the number 5. Karen Acock 5 at Gmail. Yeah. Thanks so much, Mirella, for letting me share what we're working on. Thank you for each and every one of you sharing your time with me.